What you are about to see is a real-life story. The accounts have gone into great detail to give each side's version of this, an exclusive one, we understand. One of the most talked about.
Hello to my wonderful cast today. How are you all doing?
Doing good.
Really good.
Good.
This is kind of a spur of the moment show. Thank you, Michael, for coming. I'm trying to figure out how to get you in the main box here so people can see you better.
Right on.
But just let me go around the room here. We've got Michael. Now, is it Cincoski or Cincoski?
Cincoski.
Cincoski. Okay, I've heard it pronounced all different ways in the last few days. We had Michael, obviously, as our guest of honor, and then we have Alexei Novitzky, our resident guru, and Dan Villers. Hey, Dan, how's it going?
It's going very well, thank you.
Our resident doctor, and another special guest, Mick West. Hello, Mick. Everybody.
Hello, Tony.
I think there's not enough time for introductions for everyone. So the main thing I wanted to do was to say hi to everyone and get Michael to sort of, if it's okay with everyone, to kind of first just tell I know you've probably told the story a million times, but if you don't mind, just for the record, just say what was your experience in this whole thing, if you don't mind.
So my experience started with this specifically in January of 2018. That's when I first arrived to Iraq, and I was doing turnover with the team that we were replacing at the time, and there's one of the guys from the team that had shown me that video originally. And thinking back, I thought it was just one video, but last time I saw this video was 6 years ago. So I remember now that there was multiple recordings of different lengths. The whole thing that I remember, or that of the portion that I seen, was about 17 minutes long, and it is of that Jellyfish UAP that has been labeled as in the media. We called it the spaghetti monster among the Marines on the base. And it was just, when they were showing me, it was just this kind of a cool story of something weird that happened. Everybody had their own different theories on what it could be, but nothing that could totally explain the phenomenon. And we would show people that would come into the COC the video, and they would think it's super weird and come up with their own theories. And nobody really thought anything further into it because we never saw anything like that ever again. And I never thought I'd actually see that video ever again after I left my deployment. I told a few people about it once I got home, but obviously I didn't have the video or any of the recordings to back up my story. So people probably thought I was, just making up BS or something. I don't know. But now that I've seen the video, and a few of my buddies have seen, they sent it to me a few days ago, and they were asking me, I was like, "Oh, is this what you saw?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's it. That's the exact recording, or a clip of it that I saw in country." And some of the videos that I seen circulating, there were some claims that didn't line up with the longer recordings that I initially saw. And so I jumped into the YouTube comments in some of these videos and was clearing a few things up. And then I was getting a lot of questions, and then people were seeing my comments. And then all of a sudden I started getting all of these interview requests and things like that. So I wasn't even there for the event itself. I'm not a primary witness. I'm just somebody that saw the video a few months afterwards. The one of the longer versions that hasn't been released yet. I talked this morning with an old teammate of mine, and he verified that there was also additional longer recordings or of recordings of various lengths as well. But the claims that one of the videos, you could see the object fall into the water and then shoot off into the sky. From what I've seen in the videos that I had access to, I never saw that. So I just wanted to make that clear. Not to say that there's a clip that is out there that doesn't exist. It is possible. Just from what I've seen, I didn't see that at all. And I think there was also a claim that it was recorded by an advanced weapon system or an advanced drone or something like that, which was also not the case from my understanding. And I've talked to the team that was there. It was recorded by the aerostat that was tethered to our base, called the PTIDS, the PTDS, I think is the acronym for it, a persistent threat detection system. And so we had on all of our workstations, we had there's a media player called VLC, which I think anybody can download it. And you had the option to tune into a stream. You just have to plug in an IP address that's broadcasting a stream, so we can pull up all these live feeds. And that's how this was recorded by multiple people on multiple workstations while this was going on. They would tune into the feed, the PTIDS feed while this thing was going on, and they all recorded various lengths, various videos of this thing. And yeah, and that's about it. I mean, I'm no UAP expert by any means. I can't say exactly what it is or what it's not. I have my theories, but that's about it. I don't think there's enough information out there for anybody to definitively say what this is.
I thought I would let Mick go with his line of questioning, if that's okay with everyone first. If that's okay with everybody.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've got a couple of questions, I'll just say them. The aerostat, there's only one aerostat on the base, is that true?
Yes.
Okay, and does it just have one dome camera, like an MX-15 or an MX-20 type camera on it? It doesn't have multiple cameras.
I don't entirely remember. I think there's multiple sensors on it.
Right. Yeah.
But sensors on like one camera per se, or if there's multiple cameras, I don't know for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So the reason I'm asking is that, excuse me, the TMZ special had this video, and it was kind of all chopped up, but it was multiple parts of the video that Jeremy later released, which was this kind of longer segment. It was like a minute and a half, I think, or two minutes or so. But there's also like another video that's kind of mixed in with that, and it looks like there's actually kind of two videos, which I think you kind of alluded to earlier, that there's multiple videos. One of the videos is facing north, and that's the one where you can see the details of the jellyfish type thing. And the other video appears to be facing south. You can see on the screen it's got a 172 heading and a slant range of, I think it's like 6.8 kilometers, which is kind of completely in the opposite direction. And you see in that video that the object is moving essentially in the same direction as the other one, but since the camera is reversed, it's moving from left to right rather than right to left. So I'm wondering if your recollection is just watching like the one video, or did you see this other segment of it where it actually looks kind of different? It kind of looks like one thing below another rather than something with dangly bits. So I'm wondering if that might be a different event, because the two things do seem to be very far apart. So I wonder if you have any thoughts on that.
From what I recall, I don't remember the sensor looking south at all. But I'm not entirely sure the direction. I know that the buildings in the background were on the north side of the base, and we were more in the south side, and that's where the aerostat was. So
okay.
I always thought it was looking north, and I wasn't sure if this thing was moving in a straight trajectory, across the airfield, or if it was kind of curving with the aerostat and kind of coming around. The theory of it looking south and then it coming around north would indicate that it's circling the perimeter, and I don't think I got that impression. Looking at it, I thought it was more of like it was just kind of going straight across the airfield and off into the lake located to the west.
Yeah, that's where it kind of seems to be. I've done some analysis like geolocating it. It's kind of a little tricky because the base buildings get reconfigured every year or so, it seems. But you can kind of go back to like mid 2017 and they're more or less the same. And so you can geolocate it going across those buildings at the top in the north. I think there it's about 3.5 kilometers north of the aerostat. And then the other bit in the south, I think a lot of people thought that this video, this other segment of the video, was showing the water, because you see these white things, which I think are actually just vegetation, because it's, you know, vegetation shows up as white in thermal footage. But in none of the video clips that I've seen do we actually see any water. Do you recall actually seeing it go out over the lake and you could see the actual lake water surface in the video?
Yes, in the longer versions, you can see the lake.
Okay, and that would be the longer version of the one that you see now moving across the north towards the lake.
Right.
Yeah. Have you seen this? The other. I suppose you must have seen it because you will have seen the TMZ special. But do you recall seeing these other little clips of it where it's the small kind of two-parter type thing? I'm just wondering if like this at all tallies with your recollection, because it does look a bit different to me. Oh, actually, another thing to do with that is that the on-screen display where it says like IR and the slant range and stuff down the bottom, it's a different color between these two videos. And I'm wondering if there's any kind of operational reason why the color might be different, like it's a different camera or a different date or anything like that.
I'm not sure. The way I understand it, and with all the assets that I've worked with before, the information, the metadata, or the heads-up display, whatever you want to call it, is usually pretty consistent in color to the asset itself. So if it's a different color, that probably tells me that it's a different event with a different sensor, maybe. Yeah. But I think I've only really seen that 2-minute video floating around. So if there's another one out there, I haven't seen it yet, and I can't really say.
It's part of the TMZ. Could I share my screen just so we could see what we're talking about here, Tony?
I was going to ask you if you wanted to. Yes.
Yeah. Let's see. Is that the present setting down here? Okay. Share screen. Let's see. Okay, screen.
While he's doing that, Michael, what was your specialty in you're a Marine? Can I say oorah, or can civilians say oorah? Is that okay?
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah.
What was your specialty?
My MOS, my primary job was I was an O231, which is an intelligence specialist. Primarily, specifically in Iraq, my billet was an ITC, which stands for ISR Tactical Controller. ISR being Intelligence, Surveillance, Reconnaissance. It's an acronym inside of an acronym. We like to do that in the military. But what that is kind of a cross between what you would consider maybe an air traffic controller for unmanned intelligence drones and kind of a mission controller. So I was kind of like the liaison between the unmanned assets and my team. I would tell these assets where to go, what to look at, what kind of intelligence points are we collecting, and things of that sort.
Sorry, Mick. I was just curious while you were setting it up.
That's very interesting. Yeah. So here I've got like both videos. The one on the left, obviously, is kind of the one that you're familiar with, which has got the big old jellyfish type thing, which it does look remarkably like something stuck on bird poop or something stuck on the glass, but obviously it's not that. It just simply wouldn't work, and it doesn't tally with anything else really. So that was just kind of a bit of fun speculation at the start.
Yeah, so and I think that was one of my main theories too, was not specifically poop, but just some sort of smudge or like artifact on maybe an X-ray or housing to the lens or something like that.
It's quite remarkable.
Is it changing temperature, or is it hot or cold?
No, it's not. I don't think it's changing temperature. I think that's going to be an illusion. If you look here, you see it's kind of darkish gray, and look at these roads here, and then you move forward a bit, you'll see everything in the scene changes. Like this area here, if I go back and forth, see it's light there, it's dark there, and the same thing is happening to the object. It's just the camera adjusting contrast, I think. Would you agree with that, Michael?
If it was, we'd probably see it a little bit in the background too, and it doesn't. Okay, doing that, I am seeing that in the background. Okay, yeah, so I would agree in that point.
Okay, Yeah. I mean, it might be changing temperature as well, but it does seem like it's mostly just the contrast changes there.
Yeah.
All right, so there's two videos that we have here. This is the other bit which I kind of pieced together from bits from the TMZ special. There's a wide shot here, and this is looking south. There's a couple of points where you can see the heading come up. It's right there. It's a little hard to read, but it's 172, and I think 6.7 kilometers right down here. So this, it's basically, it kind of starts with the wide shot. The other bit was kind of cut in twice, and then they zoom in. You see the little object moving along here, and then they zoom in again one more time. And I think this actually looks very much like a different object to me. We see here like there's the yellow with a different UI on top, and the object itself does seem rather different. It seems like a bit longer, and it seems to be more separated out into two different pieces. I was wondering if you remember seeing this at all. This is the one that people think is over the water when it's actually over land.
No, I think that's still over land. There is a lot of
Yeah.
open desert kind of in that area. And can you rewind that green one a little
Sure.
bit, kind of towards the beginning?
You want to see the way it's wide, the wider shot?
Yeah, right about
Yeah.
there. I remember.
Yeah.
I think that line in the background. I think I remember seeing that in one of the videos.
That's interesting.
Is that a road or something?
Yeah, I think it's a road. We did a bit of geolocation in Google Earth with this. We got like the whole setup here. Let me just turn it to north to orient us. So here's the base here. I'm not sure where it's got that cloudy thing on it. Let me change it to a different one. All right, so if I just change it to 2017, I think is the one that has the buildings on. So you can actually kind of verify that these are the buildings it goes past over here. You'll recognize this kind of layout of the whatever these huts are. This is where it starts over here. So this is the path it takes at the top. This little cloud is the closest that Google Earth had to a jellyfish icon. So it kind of moves. That's basically the totality of the 2-minute video. It ends over this area here, and starts back over here. And there's a building here which we use for geolocating it. I think actually I have the actual photo of that right here.
Do we know anything about the weather or the wind in that day?
Yeah, luckily there was actually a flag that appeared in the video that we can actually use to determine roughly what the wind direction is. So this is looking to the north. So this is a flag kind of like blowing in the wind, and you see it's kind of blowing roughly in the westerly direction. I think it's actually blowing a little bit to the south of west from this, because this is looking pretty much due north. I think the heading was like 002 at this point. And this is a flag that's kind of part of the way along. I stabilized it on this flag. So we do know that the wind was blowing in that direction. So that's pretty consistent with what
Do you
we
have
see
that flag marked on the map?
Let me see. I don't, but I think I remember where it was. I think it was a little kind of. Was it over here? I think it might have been over. No, it wasn't over here. I guess I don't. Oh, I think it was. You can probably find it in the video actually if you just look at the full video.
Isn't it near the mess hall?
Yeah, there's one at the start over here. There's one flag here. It's flapping around a little bit. You can't really tell what it is. Then the actual flag itself that we see, I think it might be. Yeah, I think it's in the middle of this area here.
Okay, but it looks like the direction of the wind from where the flags are looks like the flight path of this.
Yeah,
it's
pretty
pretty
much
consistent with the wind.
it's going over this way. Kind of perpendicular to the camera because we're looking north. So here's our aerostat down here.
Mm-hmm.
This is the aerostat kind of point, and you can actually see the aerostat's actually in the air in this particular thing. It's kind of funny if you go through all the different time positions for history, you see it's in different positions, like it's over here on this one, and back down over here. And we kind of used this particular view of that building I was showing you there to determine the angle of the view, and that gave you the height of the camera, about 750 meters above the ground. Does that sound like a kind of approximately how high the aerostat would be? 750.
Yeah, that sounds like it could have been right.
Yeah,
I wasn't an expert on aerostats, but she was up there.
Yeah, next to the, and then these rings are just kind of like the distance rings. So like this is the slant range distance from the camera to the object or to the ground below the crosshairs was I think 3.6 kilometers. And so I drew this ring, and of course it turns out where the path is, and then the other ring is the 6 kilometers, which is where the one to the south is. So if we look towards the south, we see it's pretty much open desert, just a few roads and things like that. And again, like this video was moving in this direction towards the lake, and pretty much in the same kind of direction as the wind. So my kind of hypothesis here is that we're seeing two different similar types of objects, both just essentially carried by the wind. We don't know what they are. Maybe some kind of balloon type thing, or garbage bag, or a solar balloon, or something like that. We don't really know. And at different times, because we've got these two different videos with different colors on the screen, the on-screen text, they videoed them, and I guess you're much more familiar with the one viewed to the north, and then the one to the south maybe is a different event.
It could be. I guess I just don't really remember, or didn't even think about looking at the direction of the camera when I watched the original videos. I just kind of thought that it kind of came in from the distance off, or from the east pretty much, and then cut through the base and then continued off to the west.
Right.
That was just my idea of it.
Yeah, no, I mean that definitely seems like what is going on in the video to the north, because it definitely is like it was somewhere in between the camera and this thing. So because we don't have very many cues as to how big it is, we can't tell how far away it is. But here's the camera up here. 750 meters up. Here is the base buildings over here that it went past. We know it's somewhere in between these two things. So I mean, it could be really low down here, or it could be somewhere more in the middle down there. And I actually did a little 3D reconstruction to kind of explore that, which I can kind of demonstrate real quick. Let's see.
I mean, it's a pretty slow speed, right?
Yeah, I mean, the fastest it could be going, I think, is about 20 miles per hour if it was at ground level. Let's see, Jellyfish. So this is like a 3D reconstruction, kind of matching the video to lines of sight down here. So this is where the camera is above the aerostat, which I think you can see down there in this video. And you can we have all these potential lines of sight, and this is the ground track. So we can adjust how far away the object is. So here I'm kind of saying the object is at this position here, and it's moving. The velocity here is I think 9 miles per hour. So that's pretty slow actually. So we could move the start distance to be a bit further away.
Oh no!
They cut him off. No, that's some really impressive work. Like I said, I just saw a video like 6 years ago. Sorry, you'll have to excuse my cat.
And your video, the one you saw, did you say it was 14 minutes or longer, right?
If I remember correctly, I don't know I think it was either 2 or 3 videos that they're a little bit shorter, but it totaled about 17 minutes of video time across those 3, at least the versions that I had.
Oh, I see. So 3 different versions, a total time of 17 minutes.
Right.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, 2
Sorry,
or 3
Mick. That wasn't me, Mick. Sorry.
No, that was me. I closed the window down that was blocking my screen, not realizing that you were in another tab on that same window. So,
okay.
My bad.
Good.
Mick, I just wanted to say real quick, that's an awesome model you're making. Do you have the balloon straight up, or is it going with the wind a little bit itself?
This is something you can adjust that as well. You can just change the heading of the balloon, but this is the way that's kind of like zero. This blue line here is airspeed. So
can you screen share? Yeah,
Oh, sorry. Yes.
we lost that when you
Yeah, let
when you
me,
got bumped down.
yeah.
Is this your sit rec tool that
Yeah, this is
you've
sit
talked
rec.
about? I think that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Is
Yeah, it's
that
got a bunch of.
something that your forum members can use, like the MetaBunk
Yeah,
forum?
it's an open source tool. Anyone can use it. You can download the source and compile it yourself, or you can use it on MetaBunk. And I set up all these different situations, all these I think hundreds of well, not hundreds, but there's like I guess like 30 or so different ones right now, which I've been doing. And there's these Starlink and everything. But with this one here, it's relatively straightforward. But we do have this unknown as to how far away it is and how big it is. And these kind of two things: is it small or far away? So here, like we could match the target size. I've set the target size to be a 2-foot diameter sphere, and you can see it more or less matches the width of the object here. You see there's the object, and here's a 2-foot sphere. If you change the distance to be much closer to the camera, obviously it's going to get bigger, and so it would have to be smaller. I would have to adjust the size of it to make it a bit smaller to match, which wouldn't really make sense if it's only a couple of inches across. But that means it's going much slower. So you kind of think, what would the wind be roughly at altitude, and then you do something kind of based on that. So I think it's probably somewhere in the middle, somewhere around here. And then the size, if we do that, match that gives it like 2.5 feet. So 2.5 feet, about the size of a bunch of balloons.
So there was no visual the day of this event, right, Michael? No one actually saw it with their eyes, or was it just sensors?
Just this one sensor is all I'm aware of.
And it's infrared, it's FLIR.
Yes, yeah, forward look.
Yeah, it's got the
Sorry,
IR
it's been so long.
indicator
Yeah,
there.
FLIR or thermal, which I believe are pretty close together.
Okay, yeah. I was just curious if was this at night, or is this this is during the day, or
I remember it being at night.
is that what you're seeing there, Mick? Is that a night vision type, or?
Yeah, from what I heard, it was at night. It's a little tricky to tell without comparisons with similar shots.
You don't see any shadows or anything, do you?
You don't see any shadows, but shadows are much less apparent in thermal footage.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's not because you're seeing the emissive heat of the ground rather than illuminated ground.
Does
but
the second video have a
consistent with
shadow?
night.
Doesn't that second video have a shadow or something that looks like a reflection?
Yeah, that I think is neither a shadow nor a reflection. I think what we're seeing in this second video is actually the object itself is 2 parts. Like there's one high and one low, because we know it's above the ground, and I don't think it's going to be skimming 2 inches above the ground, or whatever down there, because it'd be bumping into things.
Is that sort of the effect you get though when it's actually one object, but the piece in the middle is just really thin and it just doesn't show up on the video, or is it actually?
Oh yeah, I think you can kind of see here if you zoom in a little bit they are kind of connected. It's not just 2 completely separate objects.
Yeah,
it's one object that appears to be connected to the other object. So it might be something like 2 balloons together, or a balloon with something underneath it. And sometimes people send up like payloads on a balloon. I haven't done any like size analysis on this one, but I guess it seems to be more or less similar to the other one. But who knows what it actually might be? I mean, it's one of those cases I think that we'll never actually determine exactly what it is. All we can do is kind of say, is it consistent with certain things? And we see here, I think, that it's consistent with something moving in the wind towards the lake, but it's really weird looking, and we're never going to find out exactly what it is. But it's a very interesting case.
My curiosity is about if this thing was, if it was a real threat, how would you have? Is there some sort of artificial intelligence associated with the sensors that match shapes of objects? Like I remember helping the Galileo project with the match objects of jets and things, and different objects that help train its AI to recognize shapes. I'm sure the military has something like that, right? I mean, why was there no like alarms going off on the base? I wonder.
Yeah, and I mean, some of that stuff can be pretty sensitive, so I don't want to speak too much on it.
I was hoping you would.
Yeah, I know, and I'd like to, but all I was told from the original team is the only way that this thing was ever captured or perceived in any way was from the PTIDs, and this is the only feed that they had it on, and then all the recordings that everybody had made of that individual feed.
And remind me, had you seen it go over the water in one of the videos?
Yes.
Oh, you had. Okay. How far
So-
is the water from the base?
Towards the end of one of the videos, it looked very similar to, at least the way I remember it, to that second video, the one with the green crosshairs, where it's just kind of off in the distance and it's kind of hard to see and it's small. I'm pretty sure the video just kind of stops and cuts out when it gets far enough away where it's just kind of too small to really make it out anymore, and then that was it.
Okay.
So it would have
Just-
been
so
somewhere
you
over
didn't
here.
see any you didn't see it go under the water or shoot off at like a 45. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. You just didn't see that, right? Okay.
Right? Yeah. No, I didn't see that in the versions of the recordings that I've had.
Why do you
access to.
think the other video hasn't been released?
I'm not sure. I never thought any of this would be released, and I think it was leaked, probably not in the way that the DoD wanted it to be leaked. So I think people are being careful. I was a little apprehensive about putting my name on, everything that I'm talking about, and that's why I don't want to talk about the radars and things
Sure.
like that, because people can get in trouble for exposing some of these things. But I'm just I'm here to talk about like what I saw in the clips, and that's all I could really speak to. But I'm sure people have their reasons, and I've talked to people that were there with me, and they would like to remain anonymous too for their own reasons, and I totally get it. Just because there is a fear of repercussions from the DoD for talking about this sort of thing.
Yeah. It's totally understandable.
I mean, we know
really
that
appreciate you doing it.
it's a kind of a silly question, but I got to ask it anyway. I'll be the one to ask the silly questions. I mean, we know that China and Iran, probably especially China, have technology. Was there any talk about it maybe being? I mean, we already know the Chinese are sending balloons over the U.S. I mean, could they be sending little floaty drones around air bases or military bases in the, in these areas in the Middle East, or do you think that's a possibility?
I'm not going to say it's impossible. I don't think this right here. I don't think that's the case. Specifically with our little spaghetti monster.
Yeah.
Okay,
Again,
I had
not
to get that question out of the way.
Yeah, I'm still not sure exactly what to think of it. And I'm hoping, continuously, talking about it and sharing my story, more people will come forward who have seen it as well, and we can kind of get to the bottom of it. I think it'd be cool if it ends up being something more out of this world, but I'm not going to sit here and try to play the confirmation bias of like, I'm trying to make it that way,
Oh, let me be clear. We were talking about this off the air. I obviously believe there's life in the universe out there, and I want there to be some sort of disclosure someday. But also, I also think that if there are aliens, they're probably smart. They may be a little too smart to float slow-moving drones through military bases like this. I don't know. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
All the things that we're seeing seem to be like too low tech for an alien civilization. Maybe I'm
Maybe
just
it's the
giving too
disguise.
much credit. What's that? What's that,
Maybe it's the
Mick?
disguise. Maybe they're disguising themselves as balloon-like entities to sneak in. I mean, it's a way of kind of flying under the radar, so to speak.
Now, I like how Mick's playing the devil's advocate in this case, because people are.
My question would
Well-
be, what's to the east of the base, right? If this thing's floating west, what's to the east? Is there any like a local village or city or
Yeah,
town?
I think so. I think it is actually just as Habinya.
Yeah, Habania is right there, pretty much
Yeah,
north of the base, if I remember
a big
correctly.
city, really. Basically.
Ramadi is not too far. That would be
Yeah.
north,
A
west.
lot of people.
So what do you think it is, Mick? I mean, just go ahead and say what your best your
yeah,
best theory anyway.
I think it's a balloon-like entity. I think it's something that's basically moving at wind speed, like a balloon. Probably something like a bunch of balloons, maybe with some decorations on them or something like that. It's making it look kind of weird. Maybe some deflated balloons. Balloons, when they kind of reach neutral buoyancy, they're neither going up nor down, or maybe they're just slowly sinking because they've come from miles and miles away. They don't tend to move around very much in the air, especially when they're like at about 1,000 feet up, which this one kind of looks like it might be. The air is pretty stable, so that kind of makes me, think balloon seems the most likely explanation. We don't know exactly what it is, or what type of balloon or anything like that, but we know it kind of it moves like a balloon, and it's about balloon size, like 2 to 3 feet in width, and the stuff dangling down. And the other one probably is a different balloon, since it was taken possibly with a different camera or a different time, and it looks a bit different, and it's like 10 kilometers to the south of this one. You got all this, people living over here, big cities, or biggish cities, lots of people. Doesn't seem at all implausible that some kids over here playing with a bunch of balloons, let it go, the winds take it over here, over the Euphrates, and out over the lake. So,
What do you think about that, Michael?
Say that again.
What do you think about that? What do you think? What's your best guess? I'm curious as to what everybody's best guess is.
Initially, my best guess was, some sort of like artifact on like maybe an exterior housing of the sensor and the aerostat. But I've seen everything circling. There's a really cool GIF that kind of speeds it up, and you can kind of see some rotation in it. And so that leads me to believe that it is something that a 3-dimensional thing that's more out in space somewhere, floating around. So, I mean, I think the balloon theory is very plausible. I don't know if that is or not, but
I'm curious, Michael. I did a post about a year ago on the Mosul orb, and basically talking about how many balloon shops there were in Mosul and how many birthdays there were, and the chances are that it's probably a balloon. But culturally, like haven't lived in Iraq, do you see as many balloons out there, like other party balloons, or as you do in the States?
I don't remember seeing any balloons. We primarily stayed on base, so there's no reason for us to have any balloons.
Okay, so you didn't go to town much, or
no? So personally, I didn't see any, but not to say that they don't have balloons out there. So yeah. I mean, it's possible.
I saw something on Metabunk, Mick, that there was an inflated balloon type character with 2 legs. And did you give any credence to that?
Yeah, I don't think it was anything that specific, really. Like the object itself looks very irregular shaped. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do.
There were also some balloons that were shaped sort of in the shape of some sort of was it a Muslim holiday they were talking about?
Yeah, Eid is like the end of Ramadan, when they celebrate, breaking the feast of Ramadan. And they sometimes have parties, and you can find balloons that have. I think the specific thing about that was that they had horns, a horn-looking shape on the object itself, and these balloons have these crescent moons as a common part of the balloon like cluster. You get a bunch of party balloons, big displays sometimes, and sometimes they have these crescents on top, which would kind of make some sense with this particular thing.
Is there a timestamp? Do we know which one of these videos happened first?
Well, we don't know. It's really kind of impossible to tell, with lack of shadows and anything like that. And the other video is very lacking in detail. It was quite tricky to geolocate it to the south. We got the roads, and some occasional, there we go, like these little poles. But no, we can't tell which one came first. I think sometimes in events like this, what happens is you get a sighting of something, like say the jellyfish thing, and then people are kind of on the lookout for this type of thing. So if I was to hazard a guess, I would guess the more spectacular one probably came first, and people just recorded this one because it kind of reminded them of the first one, whereas they might have just dismissed this one as a balloon had this been the first one to actually arrive. But we don't know. We're never going to find out what these things actually are because it's long gone. It's it's probably just in the lake, at the bottom of the lake right now. But
or on the mothership.
Yes, of course. That's true. We can't dismiss any possibility. It could be something quite spectacular, but my feeling is that the evidence of things like the velocity and the wind speed and things like that and the size kind of points towards the balloon as an explanation. But it doesn't mean we can rule anything out, and we can't say definitively that it's a balloon. I mean, maybe it's a weird drone, a big drone that's disguised with a ghillie suit. It's rather an odd thing, but we can't rule anything out. But we just make a list of what's the most likely thing, and I think balloons for me goes to the top of the list.
One of the things that crossed my mind was that, and this is kind of silly again, I'll be the guy who says the silly stuff, was that it was a series of balloons, and that maybe someone took a pot shot at it with their SKS or something, and the part of it's dangling over the other of the lower part. And I don't know, a lot of things go through your head, when you're looking at something like this, trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it's difficult because it's thermal camera footage, and we're not used to kind of interpreting thermal camera footage, and I'm certainly not either. And with the change in the contrast and the exposure. And the way it reflects things, it gives the illusion, I think, of shapes or even flatness in this instance. But I think, if I had a bunch of money, I would go to a similar location and do a bunch of experiments, get myself an MX-20, like stick it on a helicopter or something, and fly a bunch of balloons along and see what happens. So if there's any Discovery Channel producers out there who wanted to give this a go, give me a call.
Mick, I'll help you out. It'll be fun.
I just
have
the
Skinwalker Ranch.
When I imagine something alien, I guess I'm giving aliens too much credit because I always think of these very efficient shapes. I don't imagine things like this that are lumpy and dangly and
looks kind of alien to me.
I know it looks like something that we would think is alien, not something that humans would think is alien, not something that aliens would actually create.
Yeah.
Right. Because, well, first of all, wouldn't they have the technology to completely cloak this thing? Not clone it too, but cloak it.
Yeah, you would think.
Right. I mean, we even have technology that will bend light around. Have you seen the camouflage? I guess you all have that, right, Michael? You have the camo that bends light around the subject. Have you seen that technology?
I have not.
Oh, now I'm gonna have to go get it. It's
it kind of bends light to the sides. It doesn't really kind of obscure things entirely, but there are definitely camo things. I'm sure there's things that we haven't seen that are much more spectacular.
I always point out where the military,
where the flag was in this thing here. This is the little flag that I was showing you earlier. It's kind of about 2/3 of the way through the video in this region. It was the region I pointed out, but you can just see the flag flapping in the wind there.
When you figuring out the speed, Mick, how hard is it to do that? Was it easier for the Go Fast because you had more data? I'm assuming you did for that one.
It's the same type of thing, basically. You have a selection of lines of sight because we know where the camera is. We know it's above the aerostat. We don't know exactly because the wind blows it in different directions. And we know kind of the ground track of the object by just kind of looking at what's behind the object in the video. So we know, this point of the ground is behind the object. So that gives you these lines of sight. And then these are these gray lines here. And then you just simply traverse those lines of sight and then calculate how long it takes to get from one point to the other. And that gives you the speed. And I had a lot of that set up from older things like the Go Fast example. So then I can just, change this start distance and it changes the graphs. So you get this range of possibilities. It's either moving like 5 miles per hour at 2,400 feet, or 10 miles per hour at 1,800 feet.
We're looking
20
at,
miles per
I don't
hour,
know what
600 feet.
page. We're looking at in habitat page. I don't.
Well, I was going to say, I just wanted to show the technology I was talking about
Oh, okay.
with the
That's a Fresnel. That's called a Fresnel lens. They've been out for a very long time, and they only work in one direction, right? So if she were to turn the piece of glass this way, like north south, it wouldn't work.
No, this is actual camouflage that they're working on. It's not a lens, or it's a fabric. It's a fabric. This is high tech fabric. The whole point of this is for camouflage. Is to be able to make suits.
I think that might be a fake, that one.
You think so?
Yeah, that particular image. If you look at it, it looks like kind of green screen, like he's holding a bit of green cloth, and it's just fakes it. But I know there definitely are these things. So
I'll have to find a better one that you don't recognize as a fake.
Well, the ones with the projectors on them look pretty good, right? They have cameras on one side and a projector that hits. Yeah. Those look all right. But
yeah, but I don't think that's anything really to do with what we're looking at here, though. Like this.
No, I guess my point is that aliens would certainly have technology, right, to cloak.
Yeah.
You would think, unless we're talking about low-tech aliens who are only a couple of 100 years ahead of us in technology, right? I don't know. What do you think about that, Michael? I mean, wouldn't you assume that aliens would be more advanced or not?
I think they're advanced enough to only show us what they want us to see, and then gauge our reaction to that.
So you're sort of not mimicking. You're kind of going along the same lines as what Mick was saying earlier, that they could always just present something that they think we want to see, or
theoretically,
or just say, hey, these silly Earthlings will believe anything they see, so we're going to have a thing that flies around with dangly legs for no reason.
Yeah, we're probably their reality TV show.
So it sounds like, Michael, that you're a believer.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. Yeah.
I think it's kind of funny. I think we all, this is the wrong impression that people get. We all are, right? Everybody here, right, is I'm not going to say a believer, like we were talking earlier. We're not cult members, but that's really not the point. The point is we're trying to analyze things and make sure we're looking, and people criticize Mick, but I was saying in the chat earlier, someone was saying, oh, Mick. And I said, well, who's going to do the work? Who's going to do this work if Mick doesn't do it?
Well, I would really like to discover alien life. I don't think I'm going to be the person who's going to do it. But I think doing things like analyzing videos like this is important to kind of separate the wheat from the chaff. And if there is actually any signal out there, we need to get rid of any noise. So it doesn't diminish the possibility when things like this turn out to be like mundane potentially. But I think it's important to try to figure out which ones are mundane and which ones are really interesting, so we can actually focus on the really interesting stuff and not get distracted by the mundane stuff. We've all been distracted by stuff like the Las Vegas backyard aliens or the MH370 abduction videos and stuff like that. And it's just a waste of time. So it's kind of good to separate signal from noise.
Do we know who released the video? I'm not talking about Corbell. I mean, before to him.
This video? No, I think that's anonymous.
Huh. You don't know. You haven't heard through the grapevine, Michael?
No, I'd like to know, because it might be somebody that I've met out there or have met in passing, maybe.
What years were you there?
I was there. I got there in January 2018 and left in the beginning of September.
You were in, your service was 2 years, or how long were you in the Marines?
5 years. I trained August of 2014, and then I got out July of 2019.
Did you have, it sounds like you would be, honestly, you seem like the type of guy who they would be recruiting for, future intelligence work. So
that was a possibility, but I just wanted to come home and reconnect with family and kind of live a more relaxed. I had enough fun in the intel field during my time, and I decided it wasn't entirely my thing, so I stepped away from that line of work.
So how do we know you're not still in the agency?
With Mick.
Do not confirm or deny.
Yeah.
It's one of those unknowables, isn't it?
I'm sorry, I had to ask. No, but it's kind of funny to me how many people are connected with the intelligence community that are, you know what I mean? All of the actors. I don't mean to say actors. All of the, not actors. I don't mean to say actors. I know the military calls them actors, right? Or
That's a reasonable word, I think. The
players
in the game.
Players of the game or whatever are connected. So I mean, it's kind of a.
I got a question for Michael, if you don't mind. Like, I wonder if you said you described yourself as a believer in the phenomenon. Have you had any personal experience with it?
We did capture something on camera last winter, or maybe it was 2 winters ago. And this is something that I wanted to bring forward too, but the person who actually captured it wants to remain anonymous and wants to keep it more personal. So unfortunately, I that's why I haven't publicly said anything, and I probably won't as much as I want to. It's kind of just another something that's on camera that just can't be explained, kind of like a flashing lights kind of thing. Not as complex as this jellyfish UAP by any means. I think it's just I think it's classified as maybe nocturnal lights. I think is the official classification of what this could be.
Was this during your service?
What's that?
Was this during your service?
No, this is since I've been out. Yeah, and this was just over my hometown, just lights in the sky. Yeah. And beyond that, I've just been a nerd reading books, and I've read a lot of Dolores Cannon. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. She's has some work that she's done. I think mostly in the 60s with UFOs and working with clients who have abduction stories, and she works with hypnosis and things like that. So she has a very interesting take on UFOs and alien life, and I find that stuff very interesting, and that's kind of like the perspective I kind of align with.
Interesting.
There's a lot of new research showing that the whole repressed memory thing is being sort of debunked or challenged, that we don't really have sort of deep repressed sort of traumas, and actually hypnosis is not. I'm a hypnotherapist as well. You can't. It's very easy to sort of plant those stories, or just at least access their visions or their hopes, their dreams. That, I mean, you're sort of plugging into sort of a dream state, trance state. So it's obviously really this is susceptible to not getting accurate information. There's a lot of cases where in the hypnosis, they come forward with quite a compelling story and it sounds believable, but then the lie detector test doesn't usually match up. I don't know. That's what I've just experienced.
I've always wondered, Dan, by the way, we have your audio, but the video is frozen. But I've always wondered the lie detector thing, because you hear this a lot where people think they've had an experience and then they take a lie detector test and they fail it. Is that partially because, is there some sort of thing in the brain that creates a situation that would make you fail a lie detector test, but you also believe that you had the experience? Does that make sense?
Well, I think you can, and I'm not an expert in lie detector testing, but you can convince yourself of something being true. I think, you can, and so much so that you might pass a lie detector test, or it might be inconclusive. I could definitely see that happening. And I'm blanking on his name, the Area 51 guy. Bob Lazar, that sort of happened with him, where there was inconclusive sort of results from that. And I'm sure over 30 years of telling that story, he's going to believe it, or at least enough of it is true that he might pass or badly pass a lie detector test.
Oh my goodness. Oh, we have the devil himself here.
Red. There's the red right there.
Thanks, Stephen, for popping in. I didn't. I sent you an invitation, but I was didn't know if you were going to show. I appreciate you coming in.
Sure. I had a second, so I thought I'd jump in. and I see some familiar faces here.
Sorry, I hope you weren't waiting long. I was in the studio. You were down like where I couldn't see you, so I hope you weren't waiting very long.
No, it's all good.
All right, Steve, how you doing? I just changed my background to red. I don't know, it's not as bright as yours, but I'm trying.
So, Stephen, do you have any questions for Michael or Mick or any of the rest of the people here?
Well, I'm jumping in a little late here, so I don't know what's already been discussed. But I assume just the basics that you guys have been discussing, the same stuff. I guess I had a couple questions. One being, Michael, you recently said that you think that the jellyfish object could be alien, and I'm curious why.
I am just open to all possibilities. I don't want to take an official position. I think it could be, just as equally as that it may be something totally benign. I don't know. I don't have the information to fully make a claim, and I don't want to discount, and I don't want my words to be twisted into saying that I fully don't believe one or the other.
Okay. And then in regards to the potential of either a second video or a longer video, would that have come from the same platform, meaning from the PTDS balloon? Would it have been filmed from the same camera, or are we talking about a different camera with a different angle?
As far as I know, it would be just the one sensor on the one platform.
Okay. And then the current video, the longer video that you saw that hasn't been released, the one that you saw, at the end of the video, you said it kind of either disappears or it appears to disappear, right? It goes away, and to the point to where you can almost not see it, correct?
Right. And Mick had kind of showed a different clip of it too. And because one of his questions was between the two videos that are kind of floating around, there's a different color in like the crosshair and then the heads-up display. And in the green version of it, where it's kind of more off in the distance, that's kind of how I remember the video ending. Is it just eventually it goes out over the lake, and it gets kind of far enough away, kind of similar distance, and maybe where that it is in that one video. And that I think that's kind of where the video cuts off, because it was just kind of continuing off, and it was kind of boring to watch because it was a couple minutes of it just kind of going out there, and then the video stops. So I never saw it drop into the water and then or shoot up into the sky, or I didn't even know if it fully disappeared.
So the idea would be potentially that if there is a longer video shot from the same camera, it wouldn't have been before the video started where the object is close, but rather after. Correct? Meaning chronologically, the 17 to 18 minute video that you saw, where it starts with it rather close and you can see kind of form, and then it ends with the green and it's off in the distance. If there is a longer video, potentially it would be after that moment, right? Chronologically.
I think you might have them switched. I think first it was you seen it off in the distance, and I think that's the video kind of looking more south. And then I believe like the more middle part is where we see the closer up footage. And then the part that's missing is when it kind of goes off over the lake towards the end, after where we see it floating over those people and those dogs and those buildings and stuff.
Right. I guess I'm trying to ask, like, if there is a longer video, what do you think it shows? Meaning, is it, does the object come back? Based on what you've heard, does it come back? Is it? I mean, if it's just
going in a straight line,
if it's at the video, if at the end of the current video that you saw, it's mostly gone and disappeared and it's super small, what else could there be? Does it continue moving?
It could have.
Yeah, I'm just curious what that could show in a longer video. If it continued the way it is, what could it potentially show?
Could it be the reason they're not showing the second video is because they shot it down and they don't want to show that part?
Did you shoot it down, Michael? Did you hear they shot it down?
I would have heard if they did, but no, I don't recall that ever happening. As far as I know, after the video cuts out, it's eventually they lose it, and that was it. And like I was saying before too, when I was first showing this, I think one of the guys from the original team just mentioned something kind of like almost in passing, like he was just kind of standing off over wherever, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I know it eventually kind of fell into the water," and that was it. And that's where I get the like, yeah, it's a possibility that it did go into the water, whether he saw that himself or that's just his theory that he's just speculating. I don't know.
Was that guy there, the person that you're talking about, was he there during the incident?
If I remember correctly, he was part of the original team. So if he was there on the watch floor while it was going on, I don't know.
Okay.
All I know is he's just part of that team.
But he never said anything like, "Yeah, this thing shot out of the water" or anything like that. That guy.
No, I didn't hear that when I was there.
Cool. Did you see the on Mick's? Have you gone to Mick's website, the Metabug website, and seen some of their analysis of it?
I did show a few things earlier. Yeah, I showed like the sitrec situation and a bit of the geolocation for the north and south views.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, impressive work, by the way. That was really cool to see.
Thank you.
Yeah, those guys they get into places I never even considered on that website. Mick, did you show the lamppost when the object seems to collide with the lamppost?
I didn't, but I never actually thought that was a real thing. I think it's just a change in the contrast of the background changes the video compression. You can have like a little rectangle gets cut out. It doesn't seem like it's hitting anything to me.
Okay, so you don't think that it hit and shifted?
No, I don't. No.
We saw the change of contrast, which I thought was interesting because, I think a part of the interest in this is the shape, the monster-looking shape, plus the going, in and out from light to dark. But I think on the show, I didn't see it, but were they talking about changing in temperature? But Mick kind of showed how it's changing. It's just a contrast change, right?
Yeah. I could share my screen again if you want to see what we're talking about real quick. It might be useful.
Go ahead. Excuse me.
Let me just do that. Because some of this stuff, I think like the hitting the lamppost it gets a lot more play than it deserves. I think it's this bit right here.
Yep.
I'm not really seeing it hitting anything. I mean, if it was hitting something, I think it would stop or spin around or something. I think you see it's moving over a grayish background here with this truck behind it. It comes up to the lamppost, and we see like a little kind of change of this little area here, right, which kind of gives the illusion that it's kind of like moving or doing something. But the look of this bit here, because it's kind of jaggy, it just looks to me like compression artifacts rather than anything else. I don't think it's anything, and it kind of returns back to that kind of jagginess over there when it's over a different background. So again, right there, you see a bit further on. So I don't think that's anything. But like, well, it was interesting the line of questioning you had earlier, like with Michael, like you were saying, you thought before this segment of the video that we have here, it looked more like this. So are you saying like you saw it off in the distance, and then it got closer and closer and closer until it was about this position, kind of going past the base, and then it got further and further away? Is that your recollection?
I believe so, and it was either 2 or 3 separate videos that I'm recalling now too, and I don't know which one is first. Just my recollection of it, I believe that the green one came first. It was off in the distance, and then my thinking was this is the same object, and this is just coming across the base. But they could be 2 separate objects.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think you kind of get a different picture when you put things chronologically. What came first? What came next? So you're saying that chronologically, if we had the raw video that you saw, if we had it, what we would see first is something like this on the right, something small and in the distance. And then we would see what we see on the left. It gets closer. And then we would see it kind of disappear into the horizon. Does that sound more?
That was my initial understanding of it. But looking at that map in that program that Mick was showing us,
it doesn't really work, does it?
Yeah, I know, because that's looking south and it's moving
It's
left
almost
to
like
right.
you'd have to have two different balloons or something, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
two
like
different
one up
locations.
here. This is the Jellyfish one, and there's the one down here, which is kind of the two-parter thing down here, and yeah, they do seem to be very. Yeah, that's like 10 kilometers, I think, or maybe a little bit more.
The government needs to hire you, Mick, to figure these things out.
There's another option. Wouldn't there also be another camera by the Euphrates River? Like if it's looking south and it hits and it gets that footage before it enters the base.
Oh,
Isn't
so
that
it would
the
have to be
Euphrates?
over
Like-
here, you mean?
Yeah, so if there was a secondary camera somewhere around there and it filmed it before it came into the base.
Yeah, I doubt they have a camera over here, though. This is just farmland, nowhere near the base.
Well, the only reason I'm saying it might be a second camera is because they had the different HUDs.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing, and that's why I was wondering if they changed them for some reason. Like, the thing I suggested was like, when you get bread and they have different colored tags on it, tells you which day the bread was baked on. Maybe they changed it so they can differentiate days or differentiate different operations or even operators. Maybe, I don't know.
Isn't that sort of out of the control area of the base too? They wouldn't have the balloon or the that has the sensor on it hanging out over there, right, Michael? Or would they? You wouldn't have any control over it over there, right?
No, it was just tethered to just one location, and the wind would adjust where the balloon is kind of floating off to, but that's about it. It maybe a difference of maybe just a few hundred yards.
You'd probably have people taking pot shots at it if it was over there.
Yeah.
You mentioned to me, Michael, about how the base did have incursions of objects flown in and around and above the base. You specifically mentioned quadcopter drones, and they would decipher whether it's a threat and dealt with the threat accordingly. So multiple objects were often flying over or near this base, right?
Right.
Okay. So there is a precedent of objects flying over this base. It could be as simple as this was just trash or a balloon, or it could be, we do know that adversaries do utilize balloons as well for surveillance and otherwise. So are you open to the idea that we're actually in the released videos are two different objects?
I'd be open to that idea. Yeah. Like I said, my initial recollection, I thought it was all one object. And when it was looking off into the distance, I thought that was more looking like northeast. And it was just one continuous path, one continuous object. But looking at it now, if we can see that, well, okay. So it's been so long. It's hard remembering all of the details of something that you've seen 6 years ago. But, being that it's a different HUD, maybe one of our drones was able to see it. And that's why it's, maybe it's an entirely different asset, which is not what I've heard from other people.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I know, it was just from the PTIDs. What
kind of drones did you guys have that would film something like this? Just
specifically for this, I'm thinking it could be our Shadow.
Our Shadow.
MQ9? No, not 9. I forget the designation. Like I said, it's been a long time. But the Army would launch a Shadow. And that's what the UAV was called.
The RQ-7?
RQ-7, yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
So we had a Shadow, a Scan Eagle, and then we would often get a Gray Eagle. But they launch out of Al-Assad, and we would have to contract and work with them separately.
Okay.
Being that I don't know. I didn't work a whole lot with the PTIDs, so I'm not very familiar with the feed and how it looks. So the reason why, one's yellow and one is green, I can't say with any certainty that, it is a different asset. It could very well just be the PTIDs.
The position of the camera kind of matches up with the PTID, the balloon, the blimp.
Yeah.
Like when you do the math, it kind of more or less correct. The slant range there does seem a little low, but you can only see it in one segment of the video, which isn't geolocatable. So if you go into Google Earth, it does actually look like the camera's in that position right here. I did this this photo match here with roads. And
oh yeah.
these are, the I guess telegraph poles, whatever they have, their power poles perhaps. And it more or less matches up. And this is one segment of the video, but we don't have the slant range for that. We just have this is just the altitude down there. For some reason, this segment of the video was a bit narrower than the other, and it cut off the slant range and the other number there, whatever that was.
So Mick, you are estimating based on these geolocations that this video was shot from more or less the same area.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
It might be slightly different because the aerostat does move around quite a lot. If you look at it in Google Earth, you will see it in different positions. Like here it is, I think, let's see, to the west of its tether point. And if you just change the date, it will appear somewhere else, like it's over here now. And this is it actually up in the air. So it's a little difficult to tell. There's its shadow there, and the actual balloon itself is over here, but of course, that varies with where the satellite is who's taking this photograph, the angle of that. But basically, it's somewhere over here. It's consistent with what we're looking at, the video that's in the south, and so we got another balloon, it seems, or another object moving roughly in this direction towards the west over there, and then we've got this one over here moving over here, and perhaps they're different times. Perhaps it was a very similar time. But as Michael said, like the UI being different kind of points to them being, perhaps different assets or maybe different times. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Michael, you mentioned that some drones that were, incursions of drones, they had grenades on them, cheap drones with, makeshift grenades on them. Was the base ever attacked, or was there ever a drone attack? Was there ever anything like that you know of?
Not while I was there, not specifically with grenades. We did have a few have a few quadcopters come overhead that we had to deal with. We were never sure if they had any sort of armaments on them. I don't believe that Altacottam was ever attacked in that capacity. We trained for it because it was a possibility, but I don't think it ever happened there.
Okay. Were the grenades or armaments ever like hung below the drone, or were they attached to the drone? Do you know?
I believe, yeah, I believe there were 40 millimeter grenades that they would attach kind of like to the underside, kind of in between where like the railings would be. I think that it was the Phantom 3 DJI specifically is what's was more popularly used in these attacks. And so, yeah, the grenades would sit between like the railings or the legs of that quadcopter.
Okay. Meaning, were there ever any? Was it hanging from string or rope, or was it attached to the body of the drone?
I mean, I think some of them could be. I don't remember seeing any like strings attached to that. I think they're more mounted to the body of the drone itself.
Okay.
A suicide drone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, suicide drone for a $300 suicide drone. Yeah, pretty amazing.
I have to kind of bow out in a second, but I just want to thank Michael for taking the time to do this. It's been very interesting and very useful perspective. So thank you very much for chatting with us.
Sure, and thank you for your work. That's some pretty impressive work on that program.
Thank you.
Thanks for dropping by, Mick. Did you say you had to head out?
I do, yes. I'm going to head out now, but thank you all for this very
Have a good weekend.
Conversation.
Thanks, Mick.
Okay, bye.
See you.
Mike, I have a general question for you. Like, what's the, just in general, what's the last, what are we at, Friday? What's the last 48, 72 hours been like for you in general?
A little overwhelming because it all just started out with, I think it was maybe News Nation was one of the first videos that I saw that was sent to me when they were talking about it. And so I jumped in the comments. Because some of the claims were not as I remember them, so I was kind of clarifying a little bit. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting all these interview requests, and I'm talking to people, and going back and forth, and yeah, so it's been a lot. And I'm just trying to bring forth the information that I know in a way that's just, as factual as possible. Like I said, I don't have I'm not a firsthand witness. I wasn't there to be like, yeah, this is what I saw with my own eyes. I just seen a longer version of the video that's out right now, and I'm just trying to let people know kind of what I saw.
What are you up to now, Michael? Or can you
as
say?
far as like work goes? So I am a coach, more specifically, kind of like a life coach. I just got my certification to be a certified personal trainer. So I've been training clients in my local gym. I just taught my first class last night. Actually, that was kind of exciting. And I'm going to my local community college and just finishing up my 2-year AA degree finally after all these years. And yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to, and just kind of seeing where that takes me.
So the rumors that you're CIA aren't true, right?
No, I'm not. I am not CIA.
Michael, when you first saw this video, what format did you see it on? Was it on someone's phone, a computer? Tell us about that.
When it was sent to me the other day.
Oh, I thought, is that the first time you saw it? No, the original video that you saw.
The originals, that we had them saved on our secret networks on, we had these big government, really slow laptops. And so it was on one of those that I believe I remember watching the video for the first time, and it might have been connected to like a monitor, but it was on a computer.
Okay, so it's someone else's computer, and they said, "Hey, take a look at this."
I believe it's on the workstation that would have eventually been mine. I believe is the other ITC that I was replacing, who's the one that showed me. And then I pretty much inherited the videos from him. I saved them in my own file because I thought it was cool, and I'd show my buddies. I would walk into the COC, and yeah. But yeah, we didn't. It was a controlled area, so we couldn't have any other storage devices come in from outside. No phones or anything like that.
So Stephen, we went around earlier, and I had people say what their best guess was about what the object was. What's your best guess?
I would have to say interdimensional space ghost. No, I would say, I don't know, like I'm leaning towards balloons, a cluster of balloons. I've been looking around Iraq and noticing that huge clusters of balloons being sold in the streets by vendors, big random of different sized balloons that if they were accidentally released could clutter together and make a weird shape. But I don't know. I lean towards balloons. At first, I thought it was a smudge. I believe, Michael, your initial instinct also was an artifact, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Something on the lens or housing was your first instinct. And then I think that was mine as well. And I'm now, because of what Mick and Metabunk have been doing, I'm more, it's a physical object. It's there. It's, floating. Did Mick show the flag, the waving flag?
Mm-hmm.
So there is wind and it is blowing in that direction. And so there's a data point that says if it is a balloon, it's definitely moving with the wind. It's not necessarily propelling itself, that it could be floating with the wind, and something in the air that's floating with the wind, more or less at the wind speed, is balloon to me, or inflatable or something like that. Yeah. Or, there's also, this happens, a prank. It could be a balloon, but also like an intentional, let's mess with whoever and send this. We found this devil inflatable. Let's fill it up with helium, send it over the base and freak people out. There have been things like that precedented in the past. I'm with balloon. I'm team balloon for now.
There were people saying, well, no one actually saw it, but it was at night, right? That makes the case for why nobody actually saw it, right? I guess.
Yeah, and I think they estimated, Mick, I think, did the math and estimated it was at least a kilometer away, maybe 1.5 kilometers away, where if it is a small-ish object, 1.5 kilometers away at night, it might be hard to pinpoint it with NVG. And also it wasn't giving off, if not giving off a light source, it would also be hard to see it with MVG, I guess. Yeah. So,
so what are you working on? Are you any other big stories you're working on, Stephen?
me, what the hell am I working on right now? No, I got a whole episode on cattle mutilations that I've been tinkering with. It's a big episode. Cattle mutilations I've been tinkering with for the last few months. I've got I did a one-on-one interview with Robert Salas on UFOs and nukes. And the
Can't wait to see that one. Because doesn't he get upset or want to leave? Or
no, he doesn't leave. And props to him. Like, he does get kind of prickly, but he doesn't. He answers the questions and stuck out the interview, and so props to him. But yeah, so I'm working on that episode and yeah, a few other things. So most of what I just FYI, and I think a lot of people don't understand this, is most of what I do for the post is not UFOs. Like, currently, maybe 5 to 10% of my day-to-day duties are UFOs. Most of the stuff, if you go to the New York Post YouTube and see the thousands of videos on there, that's mostly what I do every day. It's just breaking news, whatever's happening. I just did a story on the secret Jewish, the tunnels in Brooklyn that they found underneath that synagogue. I just did a video story on that. So yeah.
How many filmmakers or do they have working there?
The video team is, we expanded. So I'm just gonna throw a number out there and say 20 on the video team. Yeah.
So I saw Mirage Men because you recommended it on some other show, and I liked it. But I mean, the first 15 minutes, all you see is what's her name? Something Howe, last name.
Linda
yeah. All these people that I kind of a little skeptical about and are in the business, so to speak. So I was a little skeptical. So I actually sort of stopped watching after 20 minutes, but I'm going to continue it, and I know it is good.
It's fantastic. Let me tell you, my favorite Linda story is that I called her, I believe, for something completely different, just to ask her one question. And I asked her the question. She ended up talking for 45 straight minutes on the phone about the secret alien base in Antarctica and how the U.S. military is like trying to negotiate with the aliens and something like that. And I just sat there on the phone and listened. It was 45 minutes about the Antarctica aliens. Fascinating stuff.
Wow.
I'm going to hop off. I just wanted to jump on. Hi, Mike. We haven't talked face to face, but hi. And I think I told you on the phone, things will probably speed up for you, and requests will continue to come in. And so it's exciting and/or, I guess intimidating, depending on how you look at it. But thanks again for letting me come on, guys. And this was good. I actually learned more today. This was actually really, really good. And we need more stuff like this.
Yeah, I learned a lot. And thank you, Stephen, for jumping in. I appreciate it.
Sure. Bye, guys.
Bye.
See you.
That's it.
And Tony, I've got to go to back to the world of coaching and psychology. Good luck, Michael, with everything in your new career. I think it sounds great. And thanks for being on this. Tony, thanks for the invite.
Thanks, Dan.
See you, Alexei.
Alexei, you haven't had a chance to ask me any questions. Do you have a couple of questions for Michael before we head out?
Well, I think Mick did a pretty good job breaking it down, asking questions. Same with Stephen. It's not even a question really, but if they really wanted us to believe this thing was filmed going into the water and then shooting off at a 45-degree angle, why wouldn't they show that? It's the only question, but that's more of a rhetorical question. I don't know if you want to even speak on that, but because from what we saw, from what we can see, what we can tell, it doesn't really change trajectory at all. It's kind of going with the wind. It might be two different scenarios being portrayed as one. So, I mean, they're not really giving us definitive proof of anything extraordinary. I'm not saying nothing extraordinary happened. I'm just saying that for my opinion, there's nothing phenomenal about the footage. But I don't know. That's all I really have to say.
I was just curious what you thought too, Michael. I mean, to me, it seems like if you stand back and look at the whole picture, like since 2017 or whatever, it's almost like the military has a collection of videos and they're just like, okay, this month we're going to drop this one. The next month we're going to drop this one, and so on. Do you think, you know what I mean? Do you think this is some sort of, there's some sort of overall plan just to dribble out videos and they keep getting better and better or worse and worse? Or what's your kind of whole, just on the big picture kind of thing?
I don't know. I don't think I have any opinions on it. I'm just kind of like rolling with the punches right now. I never expected to see any of this ever again. And then, but it's here. And I remember showing people, you know, on base when I was there, thinking it was the coolest thing. And then now that it's, you know, released, I got to do that again and show people this thing and talk about it and my experience with it. And I think that's cool. But as far as like the agenda of why these are being released, I don't know. And it is kind of odd that, you know, we don't have the footage of it allegedly, you know, shooting off into the sky. You know, I think that's something I would have remembered in the video, but, you know, it does cut off, you know, it was pretty far away. So like, I get why somebody would have stopped the recording, and whatever happened afterwards, you know, who knows? And before today, I thought it was just one object. But now that, you know, we've seen something to the south and there's a potential second object, like that's news to me. And that's kind of a cool concept to think about. And, you know, what could that be? Is it, you know, the same thing, or, you know, is it even the same day? You know, at no point did anybody ever say that, you know, there was multiple days of it that I recall, but it could be possible, I guess. We won't know without, you know, seeing the date stamps on the video itself that have been seemingly edited out.
This is kind of the Tennessee redneck in me, but I just want to see a video of somebody with an M60 shooting one of these things down. You know,
That'd be kind of cool.
I think that's what that's what the other video shows. Is someone,
unless it is alien, then it starts shooting back, then you're in trouble.
Maybe that's why we're not seeing the second video.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not against the idea. I'm not, you know, I just think that in my own brain, I have this impression that aliens are just, I don't know, a little more crafty, unless you're, like you were saying earlier, maybe that's or was it Mick saying that, you know, maybe that's the gig, you know, they're just, I don't know. It's just, some of the stuff is just so bizarre that it's hard to know what to think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wish you luck. First of all, I meant to thank you first of all when we first started, but I'll do it now for your service. I know a lot of vets, and they're all the salt of the earth. And without you guys, I mean, honestly, we wouldn't have a country. So I really appreciate your service and what you've done. And I know you're a great asset to our country, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And do you have anything that you want to add to the end here, or?
I think that, you know, as this continues to develop, I'll still be, you know, putting out any information that I find out. I think I still know people that have access to the original videos. I'm going to see if I can't get them to relay me some information. And if I ever find anything out, I'll be pretty active on Twitter or X, or, you know, whatever. I've never really used Twitter or X now, so I'm still getting used to that. But I think that's going to be my main point, where I'll be posting any updates about anything I come to find out. And yeah, I'm just gonna keep talking about it and try to keep answering questions as long as people have them. And
well, if you ever want a friendly platform, you have one here just to come and hang out and talk about your theories or whatever. We love to have people back on the show. Hopefully you'll come back sometime.
Absolutely. This was fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad. It was really special to have you and Mick and Steven all in the same virtual room together.
Yeah, it is kind of funny. Steven, he did kind of ambush me on X, and we kind of like, we had some, you know, not words, but I feel like he was kind of twisting when I was saying a little bit, but it was nice to talk to him and in this capacity, more face to face.
I think that's where everything gets ironed out when we're all together in the same room, and we know that we're all good people. You know, that's when the good stuff comes out, I think. And
and I think a lot of people want an official position for me, and I just don't really have one. You know, I do, you know, would maybe like to see if this turns out to be something, you know, cooler, more extraterrestrial. I think that'd be, you know, kind of a cool idea, but I'm not going to say like, oh, I'm going to, you know, I'm not trying to confirm anyone's bias, I guess. I'm just trying to deliver the information as I know it. So I'm trying to be careful.
If it turns out to be alien, I'm going to just say, look, guys, you need to up your game a bit. That was kind of dorky looking.
I think that's the healthiest way to go about it too, is to, you know, not try to confirm someone else's bias, just be objective and be real. And I think it's awesome that you were there. So the event happened late 2017 and you arrived early 2018 or something of that nature. Is that?
That's right. Yeah. Talking to somebody that was there with me this morning. I was asking if they, you know, recollect when it was, because I thought it was September or October, and they were kind of leaning more towards it was probably October timeframe. And then we arrived January of 2018, or at least I got there. I was kind of early. There's this whole way that deployments work. I was part of the early team that went, so I got there January 2018. The rest of my team showed up a few weeks to a month later.
All I can say is the video of it shooting out of water, if that does exist, will definitely change everyone's story. It's no longer a balloon floating over there, right? Like from Mick West's point of view, now you have to think of something completely different.
Yep.
It just doesn't look like that type of shape that would be efficient to enter the water or exit the water very fast. That's kind of my whole point.
It is kind of a cool shape. I remember watching it for the first time. And I worked night shifts, so, you know, going out to, we didn't really have running water or anything, so we had to go out to the porta-johns outside of the building, and then, you know, it's at night. And I remember thinking to myself a few times, like, you know, what if I look up and there's this, you know, whatever it is, you know, 8 to 10 foot tall spaghetti monster looking thing hovering over me? Like, how creepy would that be? Right?
You don't have running water? They don't like dig a well or anything, or have some kind of a method for running water there? Huh.
Not on the part of the base that I was at. There might have been a few buildings that did, like our DFAC or our dining facility, the cafeteria. They might have had running water. But yeah, we had trailers, we had shower trailers. And we just had crates and crates of, what was it? There's like a certain brand of water that had a lot of sodium in it that we would drink, and that was our running water. So we had to wash our stuff with and like the shower trailers had running water too, so we can go and like have a sink and brush our teeth. But the buildings themselves, no.
Well, I hope you'll come back again sometime. It's been a lot of fun, and it's been very educational for me, and I appreciate you coming on a short notice. And again, I hope you'll come back sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you too, Alexei. Did you get all your questions in?
Yeah, it was fun. Yep. Thank you, Michael, for coming on. I appreciate it. It's nice to meet you too. You know,
of course, nice to meet you too.
Yep.
We'll keep in touch on Facebook if that's okay, Michael. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.
Are we done?
I was going to hang out for a minute, but we can end the live stream.
Okay. Thanks everyone for popping in. I appreciate you watching, and this was a spur of the moment. So getting Stephen and Mick and Dan and Alexei all here at the same time must have been some purpose for it. Must have been fate. But anyway, we will see you the next time.